Hello there, welcome to Inkquiring Minds. My name is Doug and I'm back with another Pen Resurrection Sunday video. Today on the slab, these dead fountain pens ready for resurrection. They're both Parker Vacumatics and they're both from the fourth quarter of 1945. One is in golden pearl and one is in silver pearl. And I couldn't decide between the two which one I was going to do first, so I'm going to do them together. And if I run into any difficulties with one or both of them, this is going to end up as a two-parter. But if all things go well, we'll have two fountain pens at the end that look like they're brand new. These are both exactly the same model. The only difference between the two is the finish. The celluloid, and this one is golden pearl, this one's silver pearl, and of course the hardware is different as well, with this one having gold-filled trim and this one having nickel silver filled trim. They're both blue diamond clips, and for those of you that really like to see results very, very quickly, we'll do a pass here on the top of the golden pearl to show what it looks like before a restoration, and below we'll show it after restoration. And here's the silver pearl before, and we'll show them after below. There, now we can say goodbye to those people who need instant gratification. Apparently anybody who does an introduction to a video or leaves pauses in their video, they're called millennial pauses. They're for old folks. So apparently millennials are old folks now, because all modern videos need to have absolutely strict, precise pacing with no pauses between them. So no pauses between words, just to keep modern people's attention. Those of you that enjoy long, drawn-out, process-driven videos will stay with me through this approximately 30-minute video while I restore these two pens. Let's triage these pens and see what they require to come back to the land of the writing. Let's look at the golden pearl first. The top finial is intact, a little bit of wear. The clip is in good shape, lots of tarnish, but that blue diamond is still in place. If when I polish this up that blue diamond disappears, I actually have the enamel that I can fill that again, just like new. Lots of wear on the cap, various gouges here and there that we'll have to sand out. There's a nice big divot right there. That's going to require some 400 grit sandpaper, I would believe. And the clip is a little bit loose, so it might mean that top jewel will come out easily. Let's look at the cap band. It is the typical chevron style cap band with the center cartouche where you can engrave your initials right there. And that usually lines up with the clip. So that's where the clip should end up being, pointing right to that cartouche right there. And then the barrel, let's take a look at the imprint. GOS Parker, Parker Vacumatic, made in the USA, and a single 5 with no dots. That means it's the fourth quarter of 1945. The end finial has some gouges. I don't know whether they're teeth marks, but just gouges. And let's undo the blind cap. And we have a black rod pump, which means this is a replacement pump. There's no diaphragm that can be felt inside. And the barrel is completely opaque, so that means lots of old ink inside there. But just very springy, but there's no resistance, so that is either just remnants of an old diaphragm in there or no diaphragm at all. Let's take a look at the silver pearl from the top. The top finial is in good shape. There's lots of corrosion around that silver plating or nickel plating. The blue diamond is intact and lots of typical wear. There's a scratch there. No huge gouges. And that cap band, the chevron cap band, is in good shape. Lots of wear and tarnish. Let's see if that clip moves. It moves a little bit. Yeah, moves a little bit. And the barrel, there's a nice gouge right there. Oh, that's not a gouge, that's guck. Well, there, I've restored that already. And we're done.
And I'm spent.
Lots of wear, lots of scratches. And there's the imprint, GOS Parker, Parker Vacumatic, made in the USA, and a 5 with no dots. Same quarter, fourth quarter of 1945. Let's remove the blind cap here. And we have the same thing, a replacement Vacumatic pump with no discernible diaphragm. And it's a little bit more translucent than the other, so we can see a little bit through that barrel. And what I can tell is there's a big black mass right there. That might be the remains of the diaphragm way up here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put these pens in the pen flush ultrasonic bath. My homemade pen flush is 9 parts distilled water and 1 part ammonia. I leave these parts in the bath for no longer than 2 or 3 minutes just to loosen up old ink and generally soak everything, and then I rinse it with distilled water. Here's the golden pearl. And the golden pearl nib looks in excellent shape, but then when we look at it end on, there you can see that it's way out of whack. But that might be because it's way out of whack on the feed. So someone's twisted this around, and you can see how the feed is pushing on that tine, pushing it up. So once we push this around so that it's in the right orientation, that nib might come back into the right shape again. Let's take a look at the silver pearl nib. Excellent shape, and the ebonite feed, and that one is perfectly aligned. And here are our 2 Vacumatics out of the pen flush bath. I've rinsed them with distilled water and dried them. Let's put them aside for a moment and go over the different tools that I use to resurrect a Parker Vacumatic pen. First and most foremost is my vac extractor from the inky nib, and this is an aluminum bar with a collet. It comes with 2 collets, one for a large size Vacumatic, the oversize, and one for the standard Vacumatic, and that clamps on the back of the Vacumatic pump, squeezes it so that you can turn it, and is essential. Then there's some pure talc. I got this from Anderson Pens. You can get it now at Cardinal Pens, and that is to make the latex diaphragm slippery so it will not kink on itself on the inside of the barrel. And then there's the pellet pusher. This pushes the new diaphragm into the pellet retainer of the pump, and there is a mark on it, a groove on it, to measure how long that diaphragm needs to be. This again is from the inky nib. I have a heat gun to help heat out sections and Vacumatic pumps when we need to expand the celluloid or melt shellac for other pens. There should be no shellac in a Vacumatic pen. And of course then you need diaphragms. These are standard size. All Parker Vacumatics get standard size Vacumatic diaphragms, except for the debutante model, which gets the debutante size. And also all Parker 51 Vacumatics are all deb size diaphragms. Then I have some rubber gripper material. This is just rubber matting, like shelving. Comes in rolls, very cheap, and allows you to grip on the pen. I also got these little finger cots that protect my fingers when I'm twisting and turning and when I'm heating as well. So let's see whether we need any heat to get the sections off of these pens. So first off, I'm going to try the golden pearl, and I'm going to try it with no heat at all, and it unscrews easily. And that's the way it should be, folks. There should be no shellac on these threads. If it's difficult to get off, it means that ink is built up in there and it's stuck. A few minutes in the ultrasonic bath of pen flush really helps loosen all that old ink, and that came out very easily. And we're missing a breather tube. Let's hope it's inside that pen. Oh God. So first off, the golden pearl is giving me a problem. Let's get out our inspection camera and see what we can see inside that barrel. Well, I can't tell whether that breather tube is in there. There's just a lot of mass of old diaphragm. So let's put that aside and see whether we're in the same luck with this silver Vacumatic. No, this one's tight. So this one may have been shellacked or may just have really old crystallized ink. Let's heat the barrel a little bit. There we go. So that heat expands the celluloid a little bit, and it looks like, yeah, there's a breather tube there. But is that shellac on there or just old ink? It's shellac. There you can tell. It sticks to that tissue, and it gets all soft and tacky. Okay, let's get out the camera again and go inside this barrel and see what we can see. Okay, again, a mass of old detached, desiccated diaphragm. So all of these parts are going to go back in the ultrasonic bath. So here's the golden pearl out of the bath, and part of that diaphragm has come to the front. So I'm just going to pull it out. It is hard as a rock. There we go. And I want to make sure if there's a breather tube in there that I don't lose it. It doesn't feel like there's one in there. So since that breather tube can't escape that barrel, once it's closed up, I'm assuming that it was put back together again with no breather tube. And that wouldn't work at all. So now let's see if we can get this vac pump out of here with my vac tool. And here's another tool you need, a small hammer to hammer out feeds from sections and to tap the collet out of this vac extraction tool. We put the collet on the end of the barrel and then we tighten it down as tight as we can go. And I'm just going to heat it a little bit to expand that celluloid around that vac pump. Again, there should be no shellac on those threads there. And there, it released. That was just about 30 seconds of heat. There we go, and that's now loose. Now I'm just going to put some threads back on that again, just to hold it, so I can release that collet. There we go. And now we have to tap the rest of that Vacumatics pump out of the barrel because it's wedged in there by the design of the pump. And that's where I get out my knockout block. This again is from the Inky nib and has all the holes you'll need. There we go. Just to use it so that I can use this push rod to gently press out. A little bit of pressure. There. You can see right through there, there's no breather tube to be found. And the pump looks like it's in excellent shape. The pellet from the old diaphragm is still there. I'll have to drill that out. And let's rinse out this barrel here. You can push out the remains of that old diaphragm. I've got a test tube cleaning brush that I'll run through that barrel to get it clean again. And I attached my test tube cleaning brush to my drill, which makes it really easy just to go in there and clean it out. And now let's see if we can get this pump out of this one. Put the collet on it. A little bit of heat. This one's coming loose, but it's getting stuck a bit. There we go. Put the last couple of threads on just to get the collet off of here. And we get out our block. Release those last couple of threads. There we go. And try to push it out from this end. There we go. That was easy. And that pump is in excellent shape as well with the pellet remaining. And let's see what we have inside this barrel. There we have it. All the old pieces of that diaphragm. And we dig the remains of this one out. And here's the gold barrel, looking clean as a whistle as well. And the translucency, not so much on this one, but you can see through it. So the issue remains that we have the golden pearl nib unit is missing the breather tube. So I've got a spare, just one spare breather tube. And we're going to see whether that fits, and it does. This end has been pinched, so I might just trim that off. So let's see about knocking these feeds out of these sections. Get out our knockout block and see whether this one will tap out. Yeah, it's coming out really easily. And let's take a look at that nib to see. You see it got right back into shape again. It was that feed that was misaligned that was pushing on that tine. So once we put it back in properly, it should be aligned properly. That one took a little bit more effort. The nib remained, and there's the feed. Still got to get a lot of that shellac off of that section. Now let's take a look at this nib. This is marked with a 5 and a dot, which is the third quarter of 1945, and an R for replacement. This is the silver pearl nib. We'll put it over here on the left side so we can see what it looks like before polishing. Here's the silver pearl section before polishing, and here's the silver pearl feed before polishing. Here's the golden pearl nib, and it is marked 1945 fourth quarter, no dot, just a 5, and an R for replacement. And here is the section on the golden pearl before polishing, and the feed before polishing. And here we are with the silver pearl Vacumatics nib. This is the third quarter of 1945. So that's looking very, very beautiful, all shined up. And here is the section of the silver pearl That Ebonite always shines up so beautifully. And here is the feed, looking like brand new, all shiny. And here's the nib of the Golden Pearl Vacuumatic, and it is the 4th quarter of 1945. And here's the section, and the section's looking beautiful on the Golden Pearl. And of course the feed, these Ebonite feeds polish up beautifully. And I'm going to put the replacement breather tube in this one. There we go. And I'm noticing an issue with this one. This is the Golden Pearl, and this had the misaligned feed and nib, which I'm not surprised at. So it's sliding around in there pretty good. So we're going to have to find a spot where it doesn't slip around. So I'm going to have to work on this nib to see whether I can get this nib feed and section to live together. Okay, so now we have to replace the diaphragms on both of these pumps and insert them in both those barrels. So we'll do them one at a time because I only have one of these tools and I only have 2 hands. And the key thing is getting that pellet to go into that pellet retainer without breaking the retainer. So these are always a little bit long, so I'm going to trim it just a bit so that divot right there sits right up against that pellet inside the Vacuumatic diaphragm. And we're going to push that pellet into that Ebonite cup. And it goes click. And we like that. So now let's get some talc out because talc keeps latex from sticking to itself. So lots of talc on the outside, and I'm going to coat my pellet pusher on the inside to coat the diaphragm on the inside as well because it's going to fold back on top of itself. Now we have to mark it for length to get it the right size. Too short, it's not good. Too long, it's not good. So the pellet pusher has an indication right there. So if you don't have one of these, that measurement is about 31 millimeters. That's the length that you cut your sack. Only this one has a little groove, so I don't have to measure. I can just feel it right there and just push it with my ugly thumbnail. I'll make an impression with my X-Acto blade. You can feel that groove right there. There we go. And just trim it off. Yep, perfect. There we go. So now we just peel that latex back on itself, get a little cuff going and give it a few shoves. So I found that whirring it around in circles to get it as far down there as possible helps. And then once I get towards the end there, that's when I kind of push that little flap right there to go up to that point. That's where it needs to be, right on that little shelf. And so I'll double it back on itself. Sometimes this works to be able to get that leading edge up over and onto that little shelf right there. And then holding this bit back, pushing on this bit of the pump to try to get it to stop from doubling up, to get it to push out. Because right now it's doubled up on itself. There we go. There we go. So that edge is right up against that little shelf. And there. That's the way it... Oops, it's still kinked. We got to get the kink out of our sack. There we go. There it is, fully extended. And there it's retracted. So that acts as what you'd expect, a diaphragm, like the diaphragm in your body that moves up and down to let you breathe. This allows air to be expelled and ink to be sucked up into the barrel. So we got that one done. Let's do this one now. Now that I got the hang of it, and we give it a good shove. Now this one has been widened, so I'm going to just heat that a little bit and see whether I can squeeze it together. Well, bad news, it broke on me when I tried to squeeze it together. So we can fix that. I have to chip away at this Ebonite and get it off of that stem and replace it. There we go. So now I have to make sure that the new one will go on the old post. Now we have to do a little whittling, and it didn't take much. That's a split plastic rod, and so the new one fits on there just perfect, just like that. So I'm going to drop some Crazy Glue on there and put this on top and let it dry. Should take a couple seconds. Just one drop of Crazy Glue and press it down and then let that dry. Now, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, we push the pellet into the pellet retainer and we get a click. And we get a little talc on the inside, get a little talc on the outside, just like a baby's bum. We're going to trim this one and trim it off. Let's see whether this one's going to be stubborn or not. Oh, this is ridiculous. Come on, seriously. There we go. Yeah, that one worked a lot easier than the other one. So there, we have both our pumps. So we'll start with the golden pearl, put the collet on here. I'm just going to dust that off a little bit and add some silicone oil to those threads all the way around. And then we put a bead of silicone oil all the way around that cuff, because that leading edge is what needs to get past that little shelf that presses up against here. And so we put that inside the barrel. There we go. I'm just going to run that oil back and forth. The other thing, if it's really tight when you're putting this in the barrel, sometimes I'll add a little bit of heat just to expand that celluloid. But this one's going in nicely. Hand tight, that's all we need. Remove that collet, put the section back in, and try to pump up some water. Try weighing the pen to begin with. 8.67, which is just about right. Press tear. Yep, 1.5 milliliters of ink, so that's working. So let's see whether we can have similar luck with the silver pearl. Yeah, that one's working absolutely correctly. I'm going to put my inspection camera in here and show you how this one is working exactly the way it should. There's 3-4 pumps. So now for the silver pearl, we have to put the nib and feed together and reinstall this nib. Make sure it's lined up. Hold it top and bottom with the gripper material. And I've put the section in the barrel so it's easier to get some leverage. And we're going to find the sweet spot here and give it a push. Yeah, it doesn't want to go. So we have to knock this feed out again. And I'm going to rough up that stem of that feed with some 400 grit flexible sandpaper. And that should help slide that feed back in again. And this time I'm going to grip it top and bottom with the gripper. We're going to put the section back in the barrel, and I'm going to heat that barrel just a little bit to expand it and soften it so that I can push that nib and feed in. There, that works. The nib is slightly misaligned, so I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking here to get that nib aligned properly. So I've aligned that nib so the tines are perfectly aligned with each other. And let's measure this silver pearl. 8.89, press tear, and we'll see how much water it takes up. And 1.41, and that's pretty typical. And now that I've got the two pens functioning, let's go at polishing up those caps and barrels. So we need to remove the clips on both of these. Again, let's start with the golden pearl, and an HB pencil as a mandrel, and a little gripper material, and see if we can give that clip a turn. Certainly the clip is moving, but is the finial moving too? Because sometimes it just slides around. Yeah, it's just sliding around. No, it's not moving. So I'm going to put a little juice on that. I use this Pensbury Manor Pen-atrate potion number 7, and I put a drop on the inside and a drop on the outside. And then I just let it sit upside down like that in my pen stand for a couple hours. Let's see whether the silver pearl would be any better. And this clip needs to be straightened a little bit. There's a little bit of a bend right there. You can see just from sitting, oh, I've lost the blue diamond just sitting in the bath. So I lose the blue diamond on the golden pearl too. Yep, so that's all right. They can be replaced. And let's see whether this one comes off. This one's a lot tighter. Clip's going around. Yep, and the jewel is coming out for this one. Good. Excellent. So I don't need any penetrating potion. I just need my Linus Tech Tips handy dandy multi-driver and get the right slot into the slot of that nut, that brass nut, and we get that clip off. This is a wonderful screwdriver. It has a knurled shaft on it, and you can spin it like this. It ratchets in both directions, or it can be straight like that, like a regular screwdriver. There we go. And there's that clip. So now we can polish that cap up. We'll mask off the silver cap band and polish it up with 1500 grit through 12,000 grit micro mesh. I'll go at any gouges or anything with 400 grit first to get them smoothed out, and then we'll finish up with some polishing compound on my Dremel buffer tool. So let's take a quick pass on this cap above, see it all the way around, and then we'll see it down below when it's all polished up. And here's the clip on the left, beautiful silver and we'll see what it looks like when it's polished up over here. It's already looking very good. It was very tarnished before, just a couple of minutes in the pen flush bath, and it's looking great. So after letting this clip soak with the Pensbury Manor Pen-atrate potion number 7, and then applying a little bit of heat, I got that top jewel to budge. And there's the gold clip on the left hand side before polishing. And let's put the cap up here so you can see it, what it looks like before I start polishing it. And then we'll come back with both caps and both clips polished up. And here's the gold clip all polished up, looking beautiful and brand new. And here is the silver clip all polished up. It has a lot more pitting to it than the gold, and I'm pretty sure that's nickel plated, but it looks a lot better than it did. So now we'll polish up those caps next. That gold band came up beautifully, as they always do. Look at that. And the silver one, the band is in better shape than the clip, but that silver just looks gorgeous, doesn't it? So now let's put these caps together with their clips. There's the silver pearl clip, and there's the golden pearl clip. We'll replace those blue diamonds as well. So we'll position this clip so that it's right in front of that cartouche that Parker left for people to engrave their initials if they wanted. I always point it just slightly to the side so I can tighten it into position. So let's get that brass nut started. And thanks to my son James for getting me this Linus Tech Tips incredible ratcheting screwdriver. Makes things so much easier. And tighten it into place. My pencil in there as a mandrel, and it looks bang on center. There we go. So now we'll put the top jewel in. I always polish this after I put it in the top of the pen, and there we go. Cleaned those threads out. It was all gucked up with old shellac, and it threaded in nicely and tightened down well. We're going to put that on the silver pen, and let's get after the gold one. Get it lined up and get that brass nut started. There we go. That's the way it should go. There, nice and tight, and the center of that cartouche. Now we just have to polish up the barrels. And here's the golden pearl before, and there's the silver pearl before polishing. Of course, we're going to maintain those imprints, and we'll come back with these barrels polished up. And here we have the barrels all shined up. Here is the golden pearl here on the bottom, so you can see what it looked like before on top, and that imprint is still evident. And here is the silver pearl. Its imprint is still right there. All the scratches and gouges are gone, and it's shined up like showroom new. So now all we have to do is put the section back in the pens, and we're going to add a little silicone oil to those threads rather than shellac. That means the next owner can open up this pen with the section and clean it out whenever they feel like it. And let's put the section back in the silver pearl, and that silicone oil will prevent any leakage as well, and you're able to maintain this beautiful fountain pen. And there I've dropped a little bead of enamel blue in both of those diamonds, and I'll let that dry. The enamel will shrink a little bit so it won't be so beady, and then I'll use an X-Acto blade to scrape off the edges so we just get the diamond in there. And there's the tester's paint that I use. It's a 1111 GI dark blue from Testers. And here we go, we got some paper. Let's take the golden pearl first, and this is the 1945 Parker Vacumatics in golden pearl. And this has 14 karat gold, I'd say extra fine nib. It's very smooth with some feedback, and it has some good bounce to it as well. Get up my pad here and measure these lines. So the horizontal lines are 0.3, verticals are the same, 0.3, and with a little push it goes to 0.7. So 0.3 to 0.3 in the horizontal and the vertical millimeters, and then with a bit of a push it'll go out to 0.7 millimeters, and that in my book makes it an extra fine. Yeah, this is a nice writer. Doesn't require any pressure at all, just the weight of the pen will get you a line. Let's check the wetness. Yeah, it's decently wet, and 1.4 milliliters of ink. And here is the silver pearl. Oops, I forgot to put The ink I put in this was, as always, Waterman's Serenity Blue. And let's try this one with Silver Pearl. It is also a 1945 Parker Vacuumatic. This one in Silver Pearl. And horizontal line, vertical line with no pressure. Add some bounce. Yeah, there's even a bit more flex with this one. Not flex, just bounce with pressure. And this is what I would say is a fine nib, just slightly thicker than this one. And let's check these lines out. Yeah, that's 0.3 on the horizontal, 0.4 on the vertical, and with a push it goes out to 0.9. So 0.3 to 0.4 to 0.9 millimeters with a push. I'm not an extra fine nib guy, so I appreciate this nib a little bit better than that one. But again, no pressure, just the weight of the pen will give you a line. And the ink here, just to differentiate with that one, is Waterman's Inspired Blue. And you can see that I filled those diamonds in with that blue enamel paint, so they are complete. And I'll be back in a moment with my thoughts about these resurrections. So what are my thoughts about these resurrections? Well, this might be the longest Pen Resurrection Sunday video ever, so I'm going to keep my thoughts short. I've added my Azure Blue Pearl 1945 Parker Vacuumatic right here because this is a nice grouping. All three of these pens are 1945. All three are third generation Vacuumatics, and three of the most beautiful colors from this generation. The other in this series would be the Emerald Pearl. All three of them are the majors with the chevron cap bands, the blue diamond clips, and the gorgeous stacked celluloid that is bright all the way around. Of course, this one I always show it off. This is the one Vacuumatic that I keep. I custom ground that section. I custom made that stub nib, and it writes beautifully. And I even put an updated modern brass replacement Vacuumatic pump in it. So that's always full of ink for me. I was really pleased that both pens didn't give me any pesky problems that would lengthen this video into two parts. I thought that if I couldn't fix something, that I would continue on with the other pen and complete the video and then do a part two with the second one. But they both actually polished up beautifully. They both write beautifully. I had the one problem with a pump pellet retainer breaking on me, shattering on me, but I replaced that, and the one pen didn't have a breather tube, but I had a spare to put in it, and so both pens work beautifully. I get a lot of comments asking for me to do other kinds of fountain pens other than Parker Vacumatics, and I do Schaefer's here and there. I do Parker 51s now and then. I've done Esterbrook's and Waterman's, and I've got some vintage Waterman's as well, and I've got a Conway Stewart coming quite soon, so you'll see those. But these are the pens that I love. There's a couple of reasons. I love the pen model. It's the right size, they're comfortable, they write beautifully, they look gorgeous. This chatoyant stacked celluloid just has never been rivaled in my estimation. They take a lot of ink, and more importantly for me, I'm getting quite good at these restorations. So that's why I tried my hand at doing two at once. The gold trim on these Parkers from the 1940s is gold filled, so it's deep and resilient, and it may look black when it's been unrestored, but it goes absolutely gorgeous, brand new gold. Same thing with the nibs. They clean up beautifully, and that celluloid is so thick. There are some pen models, like the Eversharp Skyline from this era, that used a celluloid that was so thin and brittle that you really just hold your breath while you're working on it because it'll just fall apart in your hands. But this is thick and resilient, and it can be sanded down and polished to a brand new shine. These are really gorgeous fountain pens. I am going to sell them, however, and if you're seeing this video first, you're an Inkquiring Minds member at either the basic level or the patron level. That's 99 cents a month or $5 a month. Basic members will get 10% off these fountain pens, and patron level members will get 20% off these fountain pens. I'm going to sell these two pens for $200 US each. You can buy both or you can buy them separately. Again, first pay, first buy. So email me at inkquiringminds@gmail.com if you're interested in purchasing one or both of these pens with your name and your address, so I can get you a shipping quote and instructions on how to pay my PayPal. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I'll answer your comments in the comment section. You'll get cool emojis, badges, sneak peek unboxing videos, as well as the aforementioned instant access to these resurrection videos, and 10% off your Pen Resurrection purchases, or 20% off if you're a patron member. So that just leaves it for me to say thank you. Watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.